Hello everyone, what's going on? Welcome to a video. Today I'm going to be talking about the maintenance balancing patch which we received on July 28th, 2020, on the Tuesday, of course. I've got to say, never seen anything like this before, have we? You know, such huge numbers being changed here. Pistol damage nerfed by 22, rifle by 30%, classic M1A a nerf that it didn't really need, Marksman rifle nerf by a huge 30%, and the Nemesis by what looks like an additional 11% to prevent body shots, which is understandable. Definitely something I agree with. It's definitely a lot easier, especially with the new change to the Nemesis, which allowed you to hold it for 20 seconds. Getting body shot kills, you just hold, and when the guy is finally in your sights, finally, because it's really hard to hit the head, right? Then they just body shock you, and with all the crit damage and crit chance that people usually run, yeah, there's a 60% chance that they'll body shot you, one shot you, even if you're super tanky. So that's good to see changed. But I want to touch on the marksman rifle nerf and the rifle nerf for the most part. The pistol definitely needed it. Well, I say it needed it. Really, it was just the Liberty and the D50 that needed a nerf, because it's not so much DPS or damage per mag or sustained damage, but it's burst damage. The fact that you can initiate, begin with a huge first bullet damage was too much, and I think it was just those two guns that needed to be nerfed. The other pistols, I mean, when have you ever been killed by an M45A1, M1911, which are the current best pistols, let alone some of the faster firing pistols? No one uses them. They all use Liberty or D50. And Mozambique is rare, but it has been seen. Rifles, again, why did we see a rifle nerf? Who was complaining about rifles anymore? The classic M1A has been the most problematic rifle since TU8, but that's been changed a few times, and right now, or say before this patch, everything was fine, right? There was absolutely no need to further nerf the M1A, and definitely not the entire rifle category. This is just completely unwarranted, right? Who was melting anybody with a rifle? Who? Because I tell you something, rifles were only just about clinging on to the meta pre this patch. I just don't get it, man. Like, they took away the headshot damage bonus of the MDR, which led to the LVOAC and the ACR SS being the only real viable rifles, and the ACR just has too lower damage output for its RPM. You have the converted USC, the semi-auto UMP like gun, which has the same rate of fire as the ACR but more damage, and to balance out, it has really difficult handling, like a lot of recoil and spread that goes everywhere, and one less mod. You have the M1A CQB, which, if I show you the damage chart, the solid FPS damage chart, which is, I'm pretty sure is still accurate right now, like you can see right here, it's leaps and bounds, that and the CQB, over every other rifle. Now, for some reason, the CQB was given an 11% damage buff as compared to the SOCOM. Not that there is any other difference between them. I can't find a handling difference between them. I can't find a reload difference. There's no difference between them. They just thought, let's just buff already the hardest hitting rifle for its RPM by another 11%. So much sense. All they needed to do was nerf the M1A CQB and the SOCOM back to the same damage value and by 25-30%, and then buff its handling. That way it would still sit pretty nicely in the rifle category, probably still best in slot, right? 30% damage nerf and still they'll be best in slot, right? And then maybe the Diamondback. But honestly, the Diamondback and the 80 and 86, I don't really see them being used. Yeah, they're high damage. Yes, they can one-shot, but they only have 5 rounds, and it's not the easiest gun to use, despite it having pretty good accuracy. The usage wasn't there for it to be nerfed. So honestly, the only thing that needed nerfing in the rifles was the CQB and the SOCOM. And then you have a whole bunch of other rifles which actually need a buff, except they all received a blanket nerf. I just don't get it. Rifles are dead and buried with this patch. Retarded. I don't get it. Yeah, like I said, the classic M1A was no longer a problem. It was already quite well balanced, really, quite honestly. who, if you were complaining about the M1A before this patch, you have problems. It was already in a good spot. It did not need any further nerfing. You're just pissing off the PvE crew that just, that does go into the Dark Zone even more than, than they already are because of other reasons. Yeah, moving on to the Marksman rifles. The Marksman rifles have been nerfed by 30%. A huge nerf once again. I do get this and I don't get this. I do get it from the perspective that when we had the balancing patch in TU9, quickly show you the patch notes here, you can see every weapon archetype got nerfed bar the Marksman rifles. Clearly they didn't want to remove the one-shot potential, because all that really does is it buries the Marksman rifles. We all know the SRS A1 and the SVD and the Mark 20. They have no place in this game whatsoever. There's nothing that they could be used for anything. But you have some of the harder hitting, the M700, the Eakins long stick, the named version. Then you have the classic M44, the White Death, the Nemesis, and now the Mantis, all of which are really good sniper rifles and have ability to one-shot. However, I do think they needed a nerf. However, I wouldn't have done it by 30%. You see, the way TU10 was working is that anybody could slap together a 3-piece aces, 1-piece Eraldi, either a second Eraldi or a Providence for the headshot damage, and then one other random piece. You could have headshot damage on the aces pieces, and then have a mix of headshot damage and other stats on the secondary attributes on the high ends, and you could one-shot just about anybody. It was too easy to make a one-shot sniper build that one-shot. And the damage was so high that when you consider Headhunter being a thing, that was introduced into the meta, not only could you get the one-shot kill against anybody, but then that would give you so much more extra damage and to the body that I was literally knee-shotting players for 1.5. I was 1.7 crit Headhunter body-shotting players who were literally flying across my screen by double barrel rolling, as you may have seen in one of my previous videos. It was too much damage. So yes, a nerf was definitely necessary, but the one-shot should still be there. And right now, yes, the one-shot is still there, but you've got to have an absolutely top-of-the-line, mid-maxed build, and even then, you can't one-shot the tankiest players. You have to stoop down to using something like Focus or Glass Cannon, which, okay, so if there are still ways to one-shot, but you are becoming incredibly squishy, you're effectively nerfing the Marksman Rifle one-shot build's armor from what I had last patch of 900k armor, with 1.2 total if you include the health as well, down to something like 600k. Because we're taking 50% more damage. Well, actually, it takes it from, it'll be 2/3 of it rather than a half. So, yeah, about 750k armor. It doesn't make much sense, man. It really doesn't make sense. I think a more appropriate nerf would have been something in the region of 15 to 20% to begin with. And if all they had to do was study the meta and see if one-shots were happening too frequently, either by watching live gameplay of streams or by looking at their own analytics, all the numbers that they track on the back end. Seeing clearly, we know that they can deploy a hotfix balance update, so why do they have to do them by such large numbers? Why can't we start with smaller numbers and then go on from there? I saw a Reddit post of a guy who was talking about these huge numbers and how they do seem to affect all of the one-shot builds, the precision weapons, and how it may have been a knee-jerk reaction to somebody making a certain decision. Somebody at the top, right? Boom, it's got to happen. Let's get on with it. Let's do it. And it does appear that they have attacked. First Blood has been fixed. This is absolutely fine. I was an avid abuser of this talent. I may bring you gameplay with this. This talent was utterly broken to the core. And yes, I am guilty of abusing it, but it was really fun. I did it during a meta when everybody had fire holsters and stuff, so I felt it justified. I'm not going to touch on many of the other things. Again, we didn't really see this very much. A 10%, sorry, nerfing it by 10 times doesn't seem like a good, but I haven't done the numbers on this, so I don't really know. Negotiators was definitely terrible. maybe now it can see a little bit of usage. It's definitely not broken like it used to be, and if they could get the English right in this sentence, that'd be great. So that's going to cover it for this. So one thing I want to tell you with this Marksman rifle nerf, I was hitting 2.41 million with a Mantis and 1 blue with a multiplicative damage high-end build. Now that damage with the same build, it dropped to 1.69 million. However, that's not good enough. If they disable my vigilance, my damage goes way down. I'm not one-shotting the vast majority of players, and if they're sat in cover and they shoot me, I'm dealing like 1.1 mil. It's ridiculous. It's far too little damage. You could say, oh well, then you should go and make a better build, get 20% headshot damage, because my build is lacking 20% headshot damage. But like, how many people have top of the line min-max builds, right? Like, I know I'm telling you guys, right, you shouldn't be able to just slap together any build in one shot. But I'm also saying that you shouldn't have to have an absolute top of the line build just to one-shot some people. I don't like that. It's not very well balanced in my opinion. So hopefully they revert some of this damage, because otherwise Marksman rifles are, for most of the player base, dead and buried. And all you're doing is you're shoehorning everybody into using assault rifles, and we're going to end up in a TU5 situation where you have the odd skill build player and everybody else running assault rifles. You might be thinking, whoa, Lady Death, isn't that still really good? That hasn't been touched yet. The Phoba's still around. So yeah, those builds are still going to be there for the lower skilled player. You know, SMGs don't take much skill. They do about 80% of the damage to the body than they do to the head. So why bother going for the head when you can just aim body and hit more of your shots? Yeah. If they touch the foam, the Lady Death meta loses out a little bit. Of course, it's really good close range, but once people start learning that you could just fight mid-range and hold angles, no one's going to be using SMGs anymore, right? Once the Lady Death is not being used, why would you bother using any other SMG, right? So, I am enjoying this patch. I'm loving using the assault rifles, but I do feel that we may end up with a hardcore assault rifle meta, which is just in the end going to be stale, right? Rifles are dead and buried. Marksman rifles are reserved for the elite. Nemesis will be one of the few ways to one-shot for the non-elite, and I don't have a problem with that in a way, because the Nemesis is way more balanced despite its retarded damage due to the playstyle that it forces you to adhere to. You see, the way things were last patch with Marksman rifles is people with 3-3 builds were one-shotting other people with similar builds with a White Death without a scope. So what they do is they sit on a horizontal piece of cover, and they just sit there and sit there and sit there, and they don't peek, ever peek. They wait for you to push into their line of sight. They put the little circle on your head, and then they go bloop, LTRT, or for those of you on PC, right mouse button, left mouse button. A quick little bloop, quick scope, and they kill you before they appear on your screen. Zero counterplay. I mean, it's not zero counterplay, but like, you can't push a guy like that and actually hope for a gunfight, because the guy's killed you before he's peeked. It's retarded. So yes, the Marksman rifle does fix that. The Nemesis cannot be used for quickscoping. You have to charge it, which means you must use vertical cover, which for sniper versus sniper or sniper versus anything else is far more balanced, right? You have to play, you know, I peek, I want to get you to peek, can I make you peek first, or can I peek quickly and have you peek by the time I've gone back so that I can then re-peek and get you before you peek back behind cover. You have this mind game, this little dance, the sniper dance as I like to call it. So yes, I don't have a problem with the Nemesis so much. And the pistols, fantastic nerf. I mean, it isn't really, like I said before, only the Liberty needed the nerf, because people with full shields are still just tapping you away with stupid damage, killing you in 3 shots with a foam. It's completely unbalanced and it needed to be fixed. So that's pretty much going to be it for this balance update. I just wanted to cover that. Hopefully my concerns don't pan out the way that I predicted them, but I've predicted many things in the past and they have turned out to be the case. So hopefully I am actually wrong, but probably not going to be wrong. If I am, please come back to this video and flame me for it. That's going to be it, guys. So catch you in the next video in a bit.